I finally watched One Piece, and I did it in 3 months. However, I have a confession to make. I cheated. I watched all of One Piece using one pace. Now, I might get flamed by some of you anime purists out there, but listen, One Piece needs to be accessible to beginners. I want to enjoy the story of One Piece, probably one of the best fictional worlds and stories ever told, but I want to experience it in a way that's not 800 episodes of filler. 1,000 episodes, I think 1,126 as of this moment. That's too much. If you don't know what One Piece is, it's basically One Piece without the filler, which makes it objectively superior in my headcanon. If you know anything about the history of One Piece, they had to insert filler. They had to let the anime catch up to the manga. One Piece is actually objectively closer to canon, closer to the manga. Now, let's get into the reason why we're all here. Waifu tier list, objective waifu tier list. Obviously, all the goth mommies are at the top and super. So first of all, just like how there are no bad arcs in One Piece, all the Straw Hats are goated. That's why, as you can see, this tier list does not go below B tier, because I think even my least favorite crewmates are at least a B tier. Oh, from this point on, spoiler alert, obviously, can't talk about One Piece without talking about the lore of One Piece. Mild spoiler alert. Okay, let's get into it. Now, this was really, really difficult for me, okay? Because every member has their own unique charm and story, but I had to order them somehow, so here it is. Bottom of my tier list, it has to go to Nami. I'm sorry, Nami fans out there. She's cool. And the fact that Nami, a character like Nami, is at the bottom of the tier list just shows how good Oda's writing is, okay? I really like her dynamic with Zeus, but out of the entire cast, she has to be at the bottom for me. And next up, hurts my heart to do this, God Usopp. Okay, he's the meme of the group. He is literally a god, but I don't super like his direction. I think his post time skip character design is the only one that I'm kind of 50-50 about. And his plant powers kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it makes sense more and more, and he's definitely useful, but I feel like at some points he's just relegated to like a very side character. He's relegated to background and comic relief, which I don't super like. Next up, it has to go to Robin. Now, my friend Avi, if you're watching this, I know he's gonna kill me for this take. I just realized how bad this looks by placing all of the women of One Piece in the bottom tier, but listen, I love Robin, okay? She is the hottest Straw Hat. That's canon. She's literally a 6'2" goth mommy. But listen, like, her powers don't make a lot of sense. Her sense of humor, I love, but I feel like she doesn't get enough screen time. I feel like there's so much of her that we still don't know. And all this stuff with the Revolutionary Army, I wish we'd got more of Robin, but tentatively, she has to be right here for me. Next up, I think I have to do Jinbei next. I'm sorry. Jinbei is like the big brother we all wish we had. And the way that he helped Luffy out of his straight up depression in the post-Marineford arc, holy shit. He is probably the most reliable crewmate, physically the strongest. But again, we have not seen quite enough of him for me to have the most positive affect for his character. So he will go in B tier for now. And now for the top of B tier, Cyborg Frankie. Look, Mans is super iconic. He's objectively maybe the most talented crewmate. The way he was able to insta-build the fucking the stairs and the bridge. Like, man's literally plays Fortnite in real life. I don't know how you power scale that, but he is pretty fucking cool. And that's why he's at the top of B for me. Bottom of A, this is gonna be a really, really hot take. Actually, Zoro. I love Zoro. He has some of the best fights in the series for sure, because I swear he has his own animation team, but his backstory might be one of the weakest. I'd say Zoro and Usopp's backstories are probably the weakest out of the Straw Hats, but I love his character, I love where he's going, and I love his dynamic with Sanji. Next up, Boku wa Dokta, Toni Choppa. The most adorable crewmate, okay? And also, he's literally saving everyone's asses. I was wondering when they were gonna get a ship doctor. They finally got a ship doctor, and I was not disappointed. And also, his arc, I absolutely loved. One of the few times in the show where I actually teared up, okay? Yeah, I think he's a fantastic character. He's cute, he's strong, he literally heals you. What else can you need? Next up, my boy Sanji. Listen, I might get backlash for this because they did him so dirty in Fishman Island. Okay, the whole arc was just him almost dying from horniness because he was losing all of his blood from seeing, what was it, mermaids and bikinis or some shit. Like, he can be a goofball, okay? But when he hits, he really hits. Sanji, I think, is probably the single most developed character in the crewmates. Yeah, I said it. I think he has a full character arc. He has 2 different backstories. Probably canonically the kindest person ever. Sanji's just a precious boy. What can I say? Next up, probably my hottest take. Top of A tier, Brook. Our very own Soul King. Some YouTubers I saw, one of my favorite YouTubers, ProZD, he actually put Brook at the very bottom of his tier list. Now, I have to hard disagree with that. I think Brook objectively has gone through the most pain and has the most tragic backstory out of any crewmate and probably any character in One Piece up until this point. He literally suffered through, what was it, at least 50 years of pain? What is he, like 90 years old or something? He's such a profound character. Like the power of music, the power of life, being happy to be alive again. He's great. I love everything about Brook, and he's objectively so freaking talented. He's hyper competent in everything. He's like, he can do it all. And that is why he is the top of my A tier. And for a long time, my personal favorite character. Last and certainly not least, our best boy, Monkey D, Straw Hat, Luffy. Listen, Luffy is the quintessential shonen protagonist. He has ruined all other shonen protagonists for me because he is just perfect. He reminds me, very random connection that I don't think many of you are gonna get, but if you've ever read a book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, Brazilian author, he is like the boy who spoke to the universe. He speaks the language of the world, which is canon in One Piece. He has animal-like instincts and intuition, and he's literally the warrior of liberation, right? He is literally Joy Boy. He makes people smile, he fights for freedom. At the end of the day, the reason he wants to be the Pirate King is to be the freest man in the world. And I think there is no better protagonist, and there's no one more motivational, more iconic than Luffy himself, and that is why he stands atop everyone else as the only S-tier Straw Hat. Alright, now let's get into the real meat and potatoes, the reason why we're all here. I am going to rank every single One Piece arc. Let's get started. Once again, there are no bad One Piece arcs. Even the very worst One Piece arc, I think, is average. That's why, as you can see, this tier list goes from S plus to C plus, which I consider to be average or even slightly above average. So I will be glazing One Piece once again because One Piece literally solves 80% of the issue with One Piece. Romance Dawn, gold standard. Introduces the Straw Hats, introduces Zoro. Classic arc. Orange Town. Not quite as good as Romance Dawn, I cannot lie. But it introduces Buggy, and I thought Buggy is a lot of fun. He plays a huge role later down the line. For some reason, he's still relevant now more than ever as an emperor, which is fucking crazy. But yeah, Syrup Village. Now, I don't know if this might be an unpopular opinion. I think Usopp has one of the weaker backstories in all of the Straw Hats. Kuro was cool, but otherwise it's kind of just a reskin of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and nothing too interesting happens in this arc, in my opinion. I'll put it a step above Orange Town in the C+ tier. Nothing too crazy. Now this is where I really got hooked. Barati, or Baratier, A+ for me. Sanji's backstory, and Zoro versus Mihawk at the end. Holy shit. Two of my favorite characters. Amazing arc. Arlong Park. A lot of people say that this is the arc that really hooked them onto One Piece. I have to disagree. That arc was Barati for me. Arlong Park, I think, is a little overrated. I didn't really like Arlong as a villain. I thought the fights dragged on. I think the key thing that distinguishes Arlong Park is the backstory with Nami and her mom getting killed. Very, very dark. And also her stabbing her own tattoo, and then Luffy vowing to save her. I think it's an excellent arc, but if I'm being honest, not quite as good as Barati. In my personal opinion, slightly overrated, putting it just below Barati in the A tier. Next up we have Logue Town. Great setup arc. I think this is where we met Smoker. This is where Luffy was saved by divine intervention on the execution platform, same as Goldie Roger. Crazy foreshadowing. Very fun arc. Plot-wise, not super important, more of a setup arc. I'm gonna put it in the B+ tier. Next up, Reverse Mountain. This arc, once again, is leading up to what's about to come next. I didn't hate it. I think Crocus, Roger's ship doctor, now that I've caught up, I think he was probably the most interesting part of this. Otherwise, nothing too significant. I'm actually gonna put Reverse Mountain just below Syrup Village in the C+ tier. Next up, Whiskey Peak. This is Zoro literally and metaphorically flexing his badass muscles. He straight up murks like 100 men. Baroque Works is introduced. Very cool arc, very fun. Nothing too crazy, but I will put it in the B+ tier. Little Garden, once again, a really fun arc. I really enjoyed Brogy and Grogy, or whatever, the Elbaf giants. I thought it was super fun, and I think they'll definitely develop more when they actually go to Elbaf. I'll put Little Garden in the top of B+. Drum Island. In my personal opinion, another masterpiece. This is one of the few moments in One Piece where I actually teared up. Not gonna lie. The cherry blossoms at the end, a great touch. Wapol is a little bit weak for villain, but he's not the main focus. I think the main focus is Luffy sacrificing himself to save Nami. The focus is Chopper and also the Doctor, Heroic, or whatever his name was. Yeah, great arc. I'm gonna have to put this at the bottom of A+ tier. Alabasta is like the first Avengers movie. This is like the big arc that everything was building up towards. And wow, what a payoff. Great, great arc. Pell not dying in the end was a little stupid, but Crocodile is a great, imposing villain. Yeah, top of A+ for me. Jaya. The more I think about Jaya in hindsight, the more genius that the introduction of Blackbeard is, because he is so similar to Luffy in that they have the same goals of freedom and becoming the Pirate King. However, the way he approaches it is so different, and he's so evil, and he will do anything it takes to obtain power, and I think that's so cool, and that's why Luffy stayed silent and didn't know how to respond to him. Otherwise, the Bellamy thing also happens. Not super important in the grand scheme of things. I'm gonna put Jaya just above Romance Dawn. Skypiea. This arc is hated because of pacing. I used One Piece. What a great arc. Anime Eminem is here. The most imposing villain up until this point. The only thing not cool about him is his name. His name is literally Anal. A+, top of A+. I freaking love Skypiea, okay? And also the hints at Goldie Roger with the poneglyphs and the bell. Great arc. Long Ring, Long Land. Probably the weakest arc to date. I'm gonna have to agree with that majority consensus. Still not a bad arc. Definitely not bad. Still fun. The end of this arc, holy shit, with Aokiji. Good stuff. Honestly, I was going to put it at the bottom of C+, but I might have to move it up just above Orangetown, now that I think about it. Now, finally, we have our first S tier. Water 7. Now, this might be a hot take to not have any S tiers prior to Water 7, but genuinely, I might have a recency bias because animation does get better around this point. I think this is where the politics and the story of One Piece finally begin to find its footing, and that is where I think One Piece is strongest at its world building. And holy shit, the city of Water 7, what a crazy world. I was not expecting the Cypher Pole 0 or Cypher Pole 9 at this point. That was a great plot twist. Usopp versus Luffy, was not expecting that. What a great turn of events. S tier, Enies Lobby. Another S tier, need I say more? Straw Hats invade Enies Lobby, declare war on the world government. Robin wants to live. Great arc. Is it above Water 7? I think in terms of story, Water 7 just barely edges out. And in terms of fights, Enies Lobby barely edges out. So I'm gonna leave it as is. They're about equal in my mind. S tier. Post Enies Lobby, it's always fun to see the transitional arcs where their bounties are updated, and where we get to see what happens everywhere else in the world. I think this is where Garp was introduced. I think I might put Post Enies Lobby in the A tier, just below Arlong Park. That seems about fair. Now, in my opinion, the single most overhated arc ever. I think this is where One Piece begins to peak. And if you know what's coming later, you know what I'm talking about. But I freaking love Thriller Bark. I think it's a bit sacrilegious to put it above Water 7 and Enies Lobby, but it's definitely going in the S tier. The aesthetic, the vibe, it's literally Michael Jackson's Thriller. The first half is a little slow, but the second half, starting from Oars, Nightmare Luffy, Bartholomew Kuma, Perona, holy shit, peak. I had so much fun with Thriller Bark. It's aesthetically still one of my favorite islands. It's literally an island ship. Gecko Maria's a little weak, but he has cool powers. S tier. Up next, Sabaody or Shabodi Archipelago. Another S tier, probably even above Thriller Bark for me. It's, again, the politics, the hierarchy of the world. We love to hate the Celestial Dragons. Holy shit. The Punch, Rayleigh, Haki, Bartholomew Kuma humbling Luffy and sending all the Straw Hats away to different islands. Great arc. S tier. Amazon Lily. It's alright. Admittedly, a slightly weaker arc. Best Girl Boa Hancock, though, she carries this arc for me. Conquers Haki, the little tournament arc. Not much else happens. Oh, and dick jokes. A lot of dick jokes on the Isle of Woman, right? I'll put Amazon Lily at the bottom of A. A for Amazon Lily. Impel Down. Bon Clay, Ivankov, need I say more? Oh, and Jinbei. Buggy. Buggy's also really fun in this one. It's missing just a little something, but it definitely lands in the middle of S tier, and it's leading us into what I think is one of the greatest arcs in One Piece and all of anime. Marineford. You all knew this was happening. This is so easy. Peak, peak, peak. This is all out war. It's so genius because when you think about it, all the key players, we've only met them during this arc. How is that possible? Ace, Whitebeard, all the pirates surrounding Whitebeard, all of the admirals. We've only met them for the first time now. What happens in this arc is so devastating. It leaves such a crazy impact. Seeing Luffy broken to this extent, insane. Honestly, Oda is such a genius because he found the perfect side characters to kill. And I say that because people complain that he tends to not kill off important characters on screen, and that's true. Ace and Whitebeard are technically side characters, but their deaths had such a lasting and important impact on the whole world of One Piece, and that's why I think it's genius. Very, very well done. S+. Post-war is literally Luffy getting help from Jinbei and everyone else and recovering from trauma and PTSD. He literally learns to count his blessings. He remembers his friends. Shanks' speech about how men grow up and become men. Wow, good stuff. Inspirational, therapeutic. The ASL arc was a little out of place because Ace was already dead, but not a huge problem. I'll put post-war just below Arlong Park in the A tier. Return to Sabaody. Honestly, dragged on a little bit. I wish the fake Straw Hats were taken care of quicker, but nonetheless, some epic moments. The crew getting back together, Luffy one-shotting the Pacifista. And also this reminds me of One Piece fan letter. Holy shit, one of my favorite pieces of One Piece media ever created. Did this justice. Return to Sabaody by itself, I'm gonna have to give it, I'll put it somewhere in A tier. Now, here's another extremely, extremely hated arc. I don't hate it. People don't like Cody Jones because his motivation is virtually non-existent, as we find out. I think that's completely fine. I think it makes sense for a villain not to have the most complex and nuanced motivations every single time. You can be evil for the sake of being evil, and that is why you're a villain. And honestly, I never liked Arlong that much, so I don't think he was a knockoff Arlong. I think he was literally just a stronger Arlong. He was Arlong on steroids, literally. Solid arc. Not S tier or anything. You know what? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm gonna put Fishman Island at the bottom of A+, just below Drum Island. Punk Hazard. I think the island is so cool. To this day, one of the coolest ideas for an island, because it's from Akainu and Aokiji's fight. People also hate on Caesar, clown on Caesar. No, I think he's actually a pretty evil villain. He was pretty imposing. Not only was he creating chemical weapons, but he was getting kids addicted to drugs and going through withdrawals and turning them into giants. I really wanted to see his punchable face get punched just below Alabasta, especially with Law coming in at the end and the introduction to Kinemon and Mononosuke. Great stuff. Can you tell that I fucking love Doflamingo? Don Quixote Doflamingo. The greatest One Piece villain forever. Listen, he's a master manipulator, literally a puppet master. His backstory is impeccable. Everything about his personality is design. The most imposing and intelligent villain up to this date. Personally, top of S tier. So, not a bad arc. Definitely more of a build-up. Nekomamushi, holy shit, my favorite furry ever, but nothing too extraordinary. I think I have to put Zoe in B tier. Whole Cake Island. This is like Avengers Infinity War, okay? Our first fight with an emperor. Best boy Sanji's backstory. Katakuri, Mochi Donut Man, had no right to go that hard, but he went that hard. One of the best fights in One Piece. Objectively, it is a little better than Dressrosa, even though Dressrosa has my heart. Doflamingo. Whole Cake Island, top of S tier. Reverie, holy shit. Emu, the Empty Throne, all of our friends getting together. It's the shortest arc in One Piece, but my god, does it have the biggest impact. And I think I need to see more of Reverie. Once again, One Piece is strongest when it comes to politics and world building and storytelling, and Reverie is all of that on steroids. I'm gonna put Reverie in S tier, but because it is not super story heavy, I'll put it at the bottom of S tier. Wano Country. If Whole Cake Island is, Avengers Infinity War. Wano Country is Endgame. I think the only problem I have with Wano is that it drags. Even with One Piece, and then later I switched to Onigashima Paste, it drags. However, the story elements, 2 emperors, the worst generation, the fights, the animation drastically improving, Gear 5, Joy Boy, holy shit. I might have to put Wano Country just above Marineford. S+, once again. And I know that Egghead isn't finished yet, so it's not on this tier list, but it'll probably be an S tier. Let's be honest. Alright, now that we're finally at the end of our video, watch One Piece. I get that One Piece is not beginner friendly, but holy shit is the story worth it. If you choose to watch One Piece before the Wit Studios remake, which hopefully will come out by the end of this year, use One Piece. It'll save you literally 45% of the time. That's hours upon hours, like hundreds, thousands of hours that you will be saving. Whenever Wit Studios One Piece comes out, I am putting all my friends on, because I pray it'll be properly animated and most importantly properly paced, because that is the single biggest problem with One Piece. And if One Piece was properly paced, let's be completely honest, everything here can fit into maybe 300 episodes. I believe in a day when we will get story arcs, One Piece story arcs, in 24 episode seasons. I think it is 100% possible, and that will bring so much newfound attention to One Piece. It'll revive One Piece, and people will finally see why it is one of the greatest stories ever told. And I wholeheartedly believe that. But as of right now, my hot take is that raw dogging One Piece, nearly unwatchable. Go watch One Piece. It is midnight. I'm going to bed. Thanks for staying with me. Watch One Piece. I'll see ya.